Outside looking in, I would just say, don't be afraid of someone who's homeless, or don't shun them. Just like everyone has a story. Everyone has a story.
In the last 2 years, we noticed a rise in the number of women on Skid Row. And parallel to that, we also noticed a high rate of not just regular crimes or sex crimes against women on Skid Row and all throughout LA, specifically against homeless women. So the last 2 years we see this rise, and then we also see parallel to that the whole Me Too movement taking off.
Along the famous Hollywood Walk of Fame, hundreds met to take the Me Too movement from social media to the Starline streets.
And when I saw the Women's March, when I saw the immense amount of motivation on women, from women to fight for women's causes, we were thinking, okay, how do we get some of this energy and focus it towards saving homeless women from sex violence and violence in general? So that's how the She Does movement started.
I got involved with the She Does movement through Mel. He's a friend of mine that I've met with volunteering with organizations. I volunteer with the Monday Night Mission. And we work together doing different types of advocacy, rallies, and he brought it up to my attention, for us to speak up for the women who are homeless. And I've mentioned to him several times about the women that I meet on the streets while I do outreach who have been raped and don't have a safe place to go. And knowing, that he wanted to start the movement, I jumped on board with him.
Previously to becoming homeless, I was living in an apartment in Old Town Pasadena. Prior to that, I taught school for 28 years. Had a house, I had 2 houses actually in South Pasadena. As far as being homeless, a big part of it is community. It took me a long time to trust anyone, really trust anyone. Initially, because I'm all new to this, I basically trusted everyone. So that was very difficult to understand and learn. What I learned as far as appearance-wise is I can look normal. I can take a shower, wear, regular clothes. As long as I didn't have my backpack and my sleeping bag, people would walk by me and, say, how are you doing? Good morning or whatever. But I knew if I was carrying my stuff, people would walk around me, look away. Your appearance means a lot. It's demeaning because it's just demeaning.
So in the city of LA, which is considered one of the most progressive cities, you get a lot of people who want to help, but what we call not in my backyard, or who we call NIMBYs. So it actually has been tough. We get, specifically Koreatown, we have a huge population in Koreatown who are dead against shelter.
We don't need to do that. We don't need to do that. It's okay. We don't need to do that. We don't need to do that.
They've been continually protesting, and we've also are looking at combating lawsuits that come against these soon to be established shelters.
Some people might be against shelters because they feel that opening a shelter in my neighborhood is going to look like Skid Row. You're going to bring a lot of drug addicts, you're going to bring a lot of crimes, and that's what they see because of Skid Row. People feel like opening a shelter in your neighborhood is going to look like Skid Row. But in reality, you're sheltering the people that are already in your neighborhood. You're getting people off the streets. And these are families, these are kids, these are humans.
It's hard to just keep arguing with people, and it's hard to be around people who are just unempathetic. When you've been on the streets and feeding people or giving them showers, and you actually know some of these people and you see them week after week and they show up and they're battered and they obviously need shelters and, you know, and homes, and you know that they just need a little bit. And then to hear other people just talk about how, you know, they don't want them in their backyard because they think they bring drugs or problems or trouble or whatever. And you know, I'm not saying that none of them don't, but it's just like, it's all of a sudden, it's like arguing with people and just trying to convince them that homeless people are human. I mean, that wears you down after a while.
So one of the biggest factors leading to community opposition is a dehumanization of homeless people. We live in a city where we are so used to seeing homeless people, we kind of see them as objects. The truth is, a lot of people see them as trash. So our goal was to humanize these people through social media. So we share stories of actual women who live on the streets, but we don't just share a story of them living on the street. We give them a story of where they were and how they became homeless.
I share a lot of stories of people who just don't fit that normal stereotype. Like, there's been several people who've come in and they have college degrees, advanced college degrees. They just had a string of bad luck and they don't have a big support system for whatever reason, and they ended up on the street. And I've had people who've told me that, you know, my stories have mattered because they're like, wow, this is a real person. So I think the stories are important, and it humanizes people. I think it's really important to humanize.
This is First Street Bridge right on top. So right here, so you get tent after tent, like all this behind for a good 50 to 100 feet. I think now is when it's more visible. Now everywhere you go, you see a tent, you see a person sleeping on the street. That has a lot to do with the fact that people can't ignore it anymore. Before, you'd only see tents if you went to Skid Row or a couple of places in LA where there was an encampment. Now every neighborhood had homelessness, and it's something people in LA understand they have to address now.
You want to know the truth? Because we're making noise, because we're out there doing something about it now. We have always had an issue, you're right, but I think now that you have certain people out there on the field that are, I don't know if they're tired of it, but we all, I mean, honestly, we're all tired of seeing what we're seeing, but that care, you know, making noise, bringing awareness, doing rallies, I mean, protesting, getting the mayor pissed off, stuff like that.
It's called HEAP. That's the acronym. It's kind of heaps of money for HEAP, Homeless Emergency Assistance Program.
Hey, now there's changes, you know. We protested for HHH, and yeah, making noise helps.
On 3, she does deserve shelter and protection. On 3, okay? Ready? 1, 2, 3. She does!